The original machine had a base plate of prefamulated amulite surmounted by a malleable logarithmic casing in such a way that the two spurving bearings were in a direct line with a panometric fam. The latter consisted simply of 6 hydrocoptic marsal vanes so fitted to the ambifation lunar wane shaft that side fumbling was effectively prevented. The main winding was of the normal Lotus O delta type, placed in panendermic semi-boloid slots of the stator, every 7th conductor being connected by a non-reversible tremie pipe to the differential girdle spring on the up end of the grammeter.
God, I knew this was a bubble. God, I knew it! What's going on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. So today is Wednesday. That's right, it's hump day, but you gotta admit, sometimes it can be pretty damn complicated explaining this stuff to, your friends and family, right? Well, today is actually gonna be one of the few episodes where we're gonna be focusing very fundamentally on what has happened in the past because, we've been looking at a lot of this current price action, and yeah, Bitcoin is kind of having a pretty sad looking chart right now. So we are going to talk about the short term. You can see for the most part, it is Wednesday. It is hump day. We are having a red day in the market. So not much to talk about here, but there is something really exciting, some data we can look at, and I think that today is going to be probably one of the better episodes. We're going to look at the Bitcoin halving event, okay? Because it is coming up in May, and I do want to talk about it because this time it could be very, very different considering, just for example, we do have hash rate at an all-time high. We are producing faster blocks, and I think that this time around is going to be a very different situation than last time, and if we do follow the percentage increases that we had after each halving event, well, you could be looking at a $385,000 to $425,000 Bitcoin this cycle. I know, it sounds crazy, I know, but we're going to look at the data, okay? Keep in mind, I'm not saying this is going to happen tomorrow, but possibly by the end of this cycle, we could be seeing a Bitcoin price that high, and I'm going to show you exactly how today. If that sounds good to you, well, you know what to do. Also, if it's your first time checking out the Crypto Zombie channel and you're not subscribed, well, we do this every single day, so what are you waiting for? And of course, don't forget, every Monday is the Ledger Nano S giveaway. All you gotta do is drop a comment on any video throughout the course of the week, and you are eligible. So, having a look, let's have a moment of silence for the $80.1 million worth of liquidated longs. Hopping over here, giving it a quick refresh live, we now have a 69.8% Bitcoin. So actually, Bitcoin dominance went up a little bit. Now, you are noticing a lot of altcoins in the red. If we do compare it to the Bitcoin comparative, you see some still doing well. But for the most part, today is relatively a red day across the board, except for Ocean Protocol up 310%, $431,000 worth of volume. Not a lot of volume. Very easy to move that price. Metaverse, Ren, XMAX, Nexo, MadeSafe, Huobi, Maker, KuCoin, and Leo. And then after that, you're basically seeing either breaking even or just red. Obviously, Bitcoin dominance is sitting at this very pivotal level right here, literally at that 72% mark, trying to break above what we had back on July 10th of 2017. Real 10 volume doing better than yesterday. Not by much. A little bit better. I'd like to see more, but this is to be expected, especially as we get to the end of this wedge. Once again, mass confusion over here. Some buys, some sells. Really still not an overall consensus of what we are doing here, although you are noticing shorts starting to pile up. Now, does this mean that we are going to go lower, or are we going to have a short-term short squeeze? Now, I do want to talk about that as well. I'll get into that in just a second. Fear and greed at 38, but this is the situation right here. You could see currently we were respecting this trend for quite some time, and now we are pushing lower into the red zone. So the question is, are we now destined to go down to this $9,400 level? Well, if you look what Crypto Fibonacci said on the 4-hour chart, why did we bounce? basically here, an important Fibonacci retracement cluster lined up just perfect. Not saying that this is the bottom, but it was tradable. But here's the situation right here. You can see that we are putting in this short-term downwards wedge, okay? So this is showing us that we're looking for pretty much a breakout September 13th. You know that it's probably going to happen sooner than that, but the question is, are we just going to plummet lower, or are we going to have a little bit of a fake out kind of bump, hit the, resistance again and then keep going lower? Well, actually, if we have a look right here, you do notice that we're still being supported by the dotted trend in the middle of the descending triangle. So far we are holding by it. Now, are we going to pump back up? If we do, we could go up to about that $10,700 level. If we don't break above it, well, then we're going to fall back down into basically this triangle. But as you can see right here, this wedge is still going lower and lower and looks like it does want to have a move by early October, but a lot of us are looking much sooner. Now, what can we look at short term? Well, like Josh Rager says, Bitcoin price breaks through the current support area on the daily and through the 20 MA. If buyers don't step in the next couple days, we're going to see Bitcoin retest the previous support in the low 9,000s. Okay, now this is where the exponential 21 weekly is. Also, a break from this might go down to 8K. Now, one interesting thing I do want to point out, short term, if you are trading short term, now keep in mind this is on the 4-hour chart. If you're going to put in a trade on the 4-hour, you want to stay on the 4-hour. You don't want to hop from the 4 to the daily or something. It's going to screw you up, right? But having a look over here, Market Cipher did put in a green dot down here, and you could see we actually had a decent pump from those levels, from the wick to the top. That would have been a 16%. So if you guys were able to get in on that, that was pretty good trade. Now, you could see it did also put in a blood diamond, and from that point, we had another retracement, an opportunity to short, and that was 6%. And now currently, we are putting in 2 green dots. Now, personally, I do like to see them on their own waves, right? But you can see, for example, back here, we had 2 dots as well back here, and that actually signaled, from the bottom of the second dot, well, that was about a 12% increase. So if you guys are currently using leverage, be careful out there. But currently we are having 2 dots. I like to see them separate. They are showing up together. Last time this happened, we did have a pump. So take that with a grain of salt. Essentially, what could happen is we may retest the top of this level because we still are putting in higher lows short term. And we do have Bakkt coming out on the 23rd. So this is the key levels that we're looking at. And this is the date that pretty much everyone is waiting for. So could there be an opportunity for some more trades in here, some short little kind of scalps? Definitely, but very soon we are going to get to that critical point, and we're going to be looking for a very, very big move, guys. 25%, 30%, in either direction, potentially. But overall, zooming out, like Crypto Michael says, overall market cap still looking pretty good. Fresh to me, quite boring coming towards the end of the pattern, but all is fine. But this is what I wanted to talk about. Now, I retweeted this on September 7th, and I want to revisit this today because we've actually had some more data to look at, and I think you guys are going to really freaking find some value out of this. I enjoyed researching this morning. Let me just put it that way. So basically, Rekt Capital, great name, right? Rekt Capital sounds like a trustworthy, but I mean, guys, you're watching the Crypto Zombie, so let's not judge a book by its name, right? First halving, we put in 13,378%. The second halving, we put in 12,160%. So if Bitcoin rallies anything between 12,160 to 13,378, you are basically looking at a Bitcoin price between 385 to 400,000. In fact, if we look at certain charts, we can see it going up to about 425,000. Now, what is the problem? Well, there's one key issue here. And that's the fact that we have never put in a new all-time high before the halving event. You can see all these purple lines represent the halving, and each one of the colored sections are the time in between each halving event. And never are we actually able to put in a high until afterwards. I mean, you could see back here, we did about $33. We had the halving event, and we didn't break that high until, this happened in November, and we didn't break it until March. I don't have to go over this chart. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Essentially, we do not put in a new higher high until after the halving event, and that's not until next May. So considering that we're already at 10K and we're trying to get to 20K, this would suggest that we're going to be bouncing around somewhere below 20K until next May. But it gets better. If Bitcoin rallies like it did last time, like I said, 385 to 425K. But I want to talk about this article right here that came out. We're going to get into all of these charts, and this is everything that you need to know about the halving event. So you can see they say historically the Bitcoin halving has proven to be an important catalyst that propels Bitcoin into a new bull market. Stay with me. You guys are really going to like this one. In fact, Bitcoin tends to begin its new bull trends at least a year before the halving. But what effect does the Bitcoin halving have on Bitcoin's price? Well, I'm going to look at the first one, we're going to look at the second one, and then we're going to see realistically what we could expect this third time around. So having a look at the first halving, you can see it took approximately 513 days for Bitcoin to rally over 13,000% from about $2.01 to $270. At the top of the market cycle, right? Now, having a look at the second halving event, this started around, this was July in 2016, and you could see that it took 1,068 days for Bitcoin to rally over 12,000% from about $164 to $20,074 at the top of the all-time high of 2017, right? So, what are the key takeaways? Well, let's compare them, okay? The Bitcoin halving is a key catalyst to the beginning of a new Bitcoin bull market. Bitcoin's price in both situations tends to lead up to the halving as well as many months after the halving. In fact, Bitcoin reaches a new all-time high as a result of the halving event, but it usually happens months after the actual event, right? So you can see that Bitcoin has rallied between 12,000 and 13,000% in each of them. So let's look at number one. In number one, it took 513 days to rally 13,000%. And in number two, it took 1,068 days to rally 12,168%. But a crucial difference in the second is that it took Bitcoin twice as long to experience that similar growth around the second halving price, okay? Now, let's talk about the third halving, which is coming up in May, or maybe even sooner than that, and I'm going to get into just why in a minute. So it's taken Bitcoin over 260 days to rally 340%. By the way, we still outperformed all the S&P, gold, everything, okay? We bottomed at around 3,152. We're currently still over 10K. For now, maybe by the time this video comes out, we'll be below 10K again. But that being said, at this moment in time, you can see that Bitcoin's pre-halving price for this one is very closely resembling what happened during the second price, right? So kind of looking at the key takeaways here, most of the exponential growth in Bitcoin's price as a result of the halving occurs after the event. For example, in number one, you had the growth that was over 5 times larger than the pre-halving growth. In number two, it was 10.5 times larger than the pre-halving growth. So you have seen it get even bigger as a result. So most of the exponential growth in Bitcoin's price basically occurs after the halving. I think that's really what I'm trying to point out right here, right? The second thing that usually tends to happen is Bitcoin experienced stronger and quicker growth prior to halving one compared to the growth prior to halving two. So prior to the first halving, Bitcoin rallied almost twice, 663%, to reach the pre-halving top compared to Bitcoin's 383 price rally to the pre-halving top prior to the second halving. So let me just summarize this super quick. Hope I'm not losing you guys. Basically, it took Bitcoin 273 days to rally 683% in the first one, whereas in the second one, it took 518 days to rally 386%. If Bitcoin rallies less pre-halving, then it will rally more post-halving, right? The fourth thing I want to mention is that there has always been a pre-halving retrace or a shakeout, which is maybe what we're having right now, okay? Long story short, a 12,160% rally from Bitcoin's mid-December 2018 bear market bottom of 3,150 would result in a $385,000 Bitcoin. By the same token, if we go by the first percentage, 13,378, you will have a $425,000 Bitcoin by the end of this market, which would be interesting because that would actually put the market cap higher than gold. But wait, I am not done yet. There's more. If you guys actually stuck through all of that, I really do appreciate it. But here's the thing, okay? Bitcoin block reward halving does not necessarily happen exactly every 4 years. You can see right here, it actually happens every 210,000 blocks, right? Well, here's an interesting situation. As you can see right here, the hash rate is pushing up to almost 100 quintillion, which puts it at an all-time high. And I think you can clearly see that the hash rate is getting faster and faster as we go. Now, if you don't know what hash rate is, let me explain it to you super quick. Essentially, now this is the educational part, right? That's why I had that joke in the beginning of the video trying to explain these things to people. Well, look at this chart. Basically, what you're looking at is the job of the miners, which is to pick up transactions. When I want to send you a transaction, the miners need to put these into a block, right? During this process, they also need to verify each transaction in order to prevent double spending. In order to broadcast the transaction to the network, the miners need to come up with a 64-digit hexadecimal number known as a nonce, okay? It will have a unique mathematical characteristic when calculating a particular function, which is called a hash function. The catch is, however, that there is only one way to find the nonce number, and it's to guess. There's no other way. When these ASIC miners are going in the background, all they're doing is guessing. They're just guessing until they get the right number, right? So here's where the hash rate comes into play. The number of guesses that a computer produces per second is known as the hash rate. Hence, the higher the hash rate, okay, of your machine, the higher chance of you adding this block to the network and receiving the respective block reward. Now, I want to point out what HODLNOT says. The way hash rate is accelerating, the halving will be happening in April 2020, not May. And if you don't understand why, the reason is because blocks are being found faster. Now, I don't know if you guys have used the Ethereum network lately. I used it this morning. Something's going on with Ethereum right now. I don't know what is clogging up the network, but Ethereum transactions are taking like 10 times as long as they should normally take, or at least they have for me. And I even tried adding extra gas for the transaction. But on the flip side, Bitcoin is actually seeing blocks get produced faster and faster and faster. Now, what we're looking at right here, you can easily go over to BitInfo charts. I'll drop this below. And this is the Bitcoin block time historical chart. So this just shows you essentially about how long it takes for a block to be, formed and we move on to the next block, right? Normally, it's on average 10 minutes. Now, just to give you an example of how sometimes it can go over the limit, if we go back to, sort of late November 2018, December 2018, you're noticing block time very high. Look at these numbers up here, guys. So you're having 9.8, and these are minutes, okay? 9.8, 10.2, 10.6, 11.4, 11.7, 10.9, 13.7, wow, that was crazy, 11.5, 11.3, 12.9, 14.25 minutes, okay? Now, I'm going to fast forward. It's going to be behind me, okay? Obviously, I got to go behind me, but I'm going to show you the hash rate directly behind me. The block time, and I want you to see how short it's been recently. So just in the past few days, you can see right here, so we had about 10.6 on August 27th, right? Now, watch this as we go forward. Look at how it's been dropping. 9.5, 8.7, 9, 10, 8.67, 9.6, 8.78. Okay, we put in a 10.5 here. 8.72, 9.1, 8.1, and most recently, this was just yesterday's, the average block time was 7.9 minutes. Now, I know some people are saying, well, that's still too long. You can't use Bitcoin for buying a cup of coffee. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is the fact that if we continue to have hash rate going up at this rate, and we continue to have blocks happening faster and faster, then there is a chance that we are not going to have the halving event in May. It could be in April. And what this is showing me is that this is something we've never seen before. We've never seen the hash rate this high before. And on top of it, I was going to get to that in just a second. And on top of that, when you look at all these different solutions, custodial solutions, Bakkt, Fidelity, it's a different ballgame this time, guys. So I just wanted to point that out. I hope you found some value out of that. And yes, jokingly, I did want to say, I was looking at this tweet from Justin Sun when he was inviting Donald Trump to the crypto lunch with Warren Buffett, and he still hasn't responded yet, even though it got canceled. So just wanted to point that out. But having a look at our good old buddy altcoins, they're still being held down by the parabolic curve. Tomorrow is the Binance Purge. So we'll see how that goes. A lot of people were asking what exchange I use instead. One that I like actually is BitMax. Even though it says they don't allow U.S. citizens, they do. They just they don't KYC unless it's above 2 Bitcoin, which is $20,000. I mean, $20,000 is pretty good for the average trader per day, I would say. I mean, unless you're a whale. But, some people were asking about that, so I just want to drop that. But also, speaking of other exchanges, Binance has added a few more to their lending. They originally had Binance Ethereum Classic. I know they added XRP currently, so I guess that got people pretty excited. They also have USDC, USDT, and Litecoin as well. Also, speaking about exchanges, it looks like during a panel at CoinDesk's Invest Asia, you had the head of institutional sales for Coinbase in Asia, Kayvon Parastani, explain that they are exploring an IEO platform to help startups and firms launch their digital assets. The firm is also analyzing the possibility to also launch other capital formation tools, including security token offerings, or, other words, STOs. Now, I think they're a little bit late to the party, personally. I think the IEO boom is kind of dying down. However, I do think because it's Coinbase, if they were to have an IEO, I think it would do well. The first one would probably get a lot of hype. Second one might still kind of have that leftover hype to those that didn't maybe get into the first one. But then I think it's just going to kind of die out with the rest of the boom. And I think it's going to pretty much end up like the rest of the IEOs. Talking about Ethereum, I've been hearing a lot of excitement lately, even though the network has been clogged. I'm going to tell you straight up. But the development of Ethereum 2.0 is apparently moving faster than expected, with all of the major clients now connected to each other in a local area network. So, according to Adrian Manning, co-founder of Lighthouse's Sigma Prime, various different ETH 2.0 node clients written in different programming languages can now talk to each other. So, according to Mammy, I guess he's a status of trust nodes. I don't know if he's a dev or something. He said we didn't expect 3 to 4 clients being able to communicate so early in the interop locking, so we didn't plan for that. But you can see Alex Saunders over here. He says, imagine decentralized finance apps offering 10% in a world of negative interest rates. And you can see right here, it's a pretty robust ecosystem. Not to say that everything is going to be useful and everything is going to be something that people are going to need, but DeFi is definitely an interesting concept, and I would like to look into this a little bit more. I'll give that a heart, like that one. So that being said, guys, if you did not see right here, crypto had its first television moment in India. Essentially, basically the question was, where is it? What is Libra? Proposed by Facebook, artificial camera, instant messaging app, short video platform, cryptocurrency. And he ends up going with cryptocurrency.
Is the right answer, well played.
And he got the right answer, so there you go. So we had cryptocurrency was mentioned on the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire version over in India. That's it for me today, guys. That is it for me. It is Wednesday. It is hump day. Let's see what we're doing over here. Man, we are just sitting at that 10,000. Oh, we just fell below it. We're at 9,999. All right, guys. Well, that being said, I gave you basically what the situation is. We could have a short-term kind of, rally. Right now, there's not a lot of confidence, and I know a lot of people just are taking the no-trade approach right now. They're just kind of sitting back, waiting to see what happens, but that's the situation. Short term, going to be turbulent. Long term, I hope you guys are definitely excited, and as excited as I am for the halving event. So that is that being said, guys, in this boring freaking triangle, what are you going to do? Hope you're having an awesome day. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. If you're not subscribed yet, definitely, consider it, because we